Alert, new CBS poll shows Trump leading by double digits ahead of Republican National Convention. Over the past few months, poll after poll has named Biden the frontrunner, but the latest poll from CBS is retiring all those doomsday numbers, showing President Donald Trump with a 10-point lead with independents over the Democratic presidential nominee, Joe Biden. The joint effort between CBS and YouGov was conducted after the Democratic National Convention, but before the Republican Convention, where you'd expect to see the president earn a spike in favorable polling. Besides the lead for Trump, the poll also reveals a couple interesting things. Despite all of the allegations against him, Biden holds a firm advantage over Trump among women, with 53% backing him and only 38% backing Trump. Biden's also got a lock on voters under the age of 45, with 58% for him and only 32% for Trump. While the overall poll looks like bad news for Biden, CBS notes that this survey also suggests that Biden has solidified his existing support. Biden entered with 82% of his backers very strongly behind him, and this went up to 87%. It also shifted some of his voters' rationale for backing him. Heading in, many Biden's backers were with him predominantly to oppose the president, but today, relatively more Democrats are backing Biden because they are for Biden. That portion is up by 9 points. It will be interesting to see how the polling looks after this week's Republican National Convention. The numbers are in for the first night of the RNC, and they say a lot. The Republican National Convention kicked off on Monday, and the viewership numbers compared to last week's DNC say a lot about how Americans might be feeling about this election. Mainly that Republicans seem invested and excited, and the Democrats might not. Early reports show that the Republican convention drew nearly 6 times more viewers on its first night than the Democrats did. According to The Hill, the C-SPAN livestream of the start of the RNC had roughly 440,000 views, compared to the DNC's opening night, which brought in 76,000. It could have something to do with who the parties chose to highlight on opening night. Day one for the Democrats included speeches from Senator Bernie Sanders and Michelle Obama. Republicans opened with Senator Tim Scott, Donald Trump Jr., and former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley. It was a high-energy rally for the Republican base. We'll see how many stick around for the second night of the RNC, which is set to include speeches from First Lady Melania Trump, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Senator Rand Paul, and Nicholas Sandmann, the high school student who recently, and famously, won his defamation suit against the Washington Post. The new polls taken after the DNC don't look good for Democrats. While Republicans are in the middle of their successful convention, new polls have been released that say a lot about the Democrat efforts last week. According to a Reuters Ipsos poll released on Wednesday morning, former Vice President Joe Biden did not receive the usual convention bump in polling. His slim lead over President Trump in their national poll remained basically the same as pre-convention results. In recent weeks, polls have tightened between Biden and Trump, even with the announcement of Biden's VP and high-profile convention speeches, both events that historically boost polling for candidates on both sides. Previous Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton saw a 4-point gain against Trump after the DNC in 2016. Trump also rose 4 points at the Republican convention the same year. Of course, the lack of improvement could be due to the unconventional virtual style of the party's gathering this year. But pairing these new results with the big news on Monday that President Trump is polling 10 points ahead with independents, even before the president's expected bump from his own convention, might all be a reason for Democrats to be concerned. Joe Biden accuses Trump of rooting for violence. After months of violent rioting in the name of the Black Lives Matter movement, Joe Biden is finally addressing the issue. And he's pointing fingers at who he believes should be held responsible: President Donald Trump. Biden told MSNBC's Andrea Mitchell that the outbreak of violence can be blamed solely on Trump. He even went as far as to say that the president is rooting for it. The problem we have right now is we're in Donald Trump's America, he said. He views this as a political benefit for him. He's rooting for more violence, not less. And he's clear about that. What's he doing? He's pouring gasoline on the fire. This happens to be Donald Trump's America. This statement seems disingenuous to some, considering Biden's convention speech where he refused to condemn violence and instead fanned the flames of racial division by giving time to controversial moments. Just a week ago, Joe was misquoting President Trump on the tragedies in Charlottesville. Now he's worried about Trump pouring gasoline on the fire? Perhaps Biden is the one rooting for unrest.